This is CBC Vancouver News.
Another day in the dark, another day of confusion.
A little bit hard for us to try to find a reliable story.
Yeah, I have to keep checking in. It's not easy.
To get a new prescription from my doctor to go to another pharmacy.
London Drugs customers needing to fill prescriptions face uncertainty over which medications are considered urgent. Plus, student demonstrators dig in for the long haul.
We hope that the university and the government continue to respect the students' right to dissent and free speech.
Safety top of mind as more university encampments spring up across BC. Also, hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. Earthquakes Canada is reporting a 4.4 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Vancouver Island. It happened just after 8 o'clock this evening, roughly 200 kilometers west of Port Alice and Tofino.
It was just far enough away from Vancouver Island that although it's a large enough earthquake, it's that combination of distance and magnitude. So not likely felt. We wouldn't expect to see any impacts from this earthquake. We didn't expect to see damage.
Cassidy says a quake this size is not an unusual event and there will likely be no reports of shaking being felt or damage. He says it's a reminder BC is one of the most seismically active regions in Canada. Some organizations like the United States Geological Survey is projecting the earthquake closer to a magnitude 5 on the Richter scale. After 5 days of near total shutdown, Canada Post outlets at London drug stores were able to reopen today. While the store's pharmacies remain closed, urgent prescriptions are still being filled. But as Michelle Gassoub reports, it's unclear which medications are available, leaving many patients in the lurch.
It's day 5 of London drug stores being closed following a cybersecurity incident. Would-be customers are being turned away by store employees stationed outside.
I came on the weekend, the store was closed.
This customer was able to fill his prescription, but only after paying in cash.
They told me that I could pick up a prescription, but I needed cash to pay for it. So I didn't have cash. I had to come back today. Yeah, I have to keep checking in. It's not easy.
A second man turns up, prescription in hand. He's ushered inside by the two employees, but moments later he emerges empty-handed. Were you told to go somewhere else?
To get a new prescription from my doctor to go to another pharmacy.
Okay, and how inconvenient is that for you?
Pretty bad because I'm going to travel next week, so I needed it.
London Drugs said in a statement, pharmacists remain on site at all store locations to assist with emergency prescriptions and other urgent care. But the company didn't respond to a CBC News question about exactly which prescriptions are being filled. Customers turned away will have to find another way to access their medication.
Pharmacists practicing community settings would be able to provide emergency supplies for ongoing medication therapy. And again, this will be based on professional judgment from the pharmacist, and that would vary by pharmacist to pharmacist. And for those who are in need of medication supply, I would encourage them to contact their local pharmacy, ask to speak to a pharmacist, and explain the situation.
It's still unknown when the pharmacies will reopen completely. London Drugs said the impact of the incident on operations has been significant and the restoration process is rigorous. There are billions of lines of data and code to review. There has been some progress, with phone lines and Canada Post sites up and running. For now, those looking to fill some prescriptions will need to look elsewhere.
When they close, actually it's a little bit hard for us to try to find a reliable story that they have all the medicines inside it. Yeah.
Still, little information about the cybersecurity incident that has closed the stores as the shutdown stretches on. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
A man has been charged with killing his wife in Surrey's East Newton neighborhood last week. Police say they were called to a home on 142nd Street and 76th Avenue Friday night. Inside, they found a 33-year-old woman dead. Yesterday, officers, with the help of Canadian border agents, arrested the victim's husband, 39-year-old Hardeep Sidhu. Sidhu is now charged with second-degree murder. Homicide investigators are asking anyone who saw or spoke with the couple recently recently to contact them. A milestone moment on Vancouver Island today. The Sishot First Nation has bought a parcel of land in Port Alberni from Western Forest Products. The nation says it plans to build housing for its members and the broader community on the almost 8-acre property. Ken Watts is the elected chief councillor.
The housing is just one piece. This is still land returning back to our community. You know, bringing our hereditary chiefs to walk the land is a special feeling that you can't explain. The land is sacred. It's not just about what we build on it, but all the territory is sacred.
The purchase is the first for the nation, using a $5 million agreement reached with the province last year, but they say it won't be the last. The BC government has earmarked more than $150 million to help recruit and retain health science workers. Roughly half of that will fund the effort to attract healthcare workers to rural areas and provide signing bonuses for those who fill high-priority vacancies. The province is also expanding the number of communities eligible to 74. Dozens of related occupations will get a piece of the funding too, including audiologists, dietitians, lab technicians, and radiation therapists. If you live in Metro Vancouver and take transit to work or school, you may have noticed your commute getting busier. TransLink says ridership has bounced back to pre-pandemic levels. And as Liam Britton is finding out, it's only expected to get busier.
Here at Waterfront Station, it's hard to feel alone. This is the busiest SkyTrain station in the entire TransLink system. And if you feel that overcrowding on transit is getting worse, you're also not alone. 21-year-old Kenzie Fong has been a transit rider for almost a decade and has noticed buses and trains getting packed.
It's very overwhelming. I'm personally on the spectrum, and so I deal with overstimulation a lot. And so having all of those people, especially having people bump into you, is very frustrating.
Madison Miller takes transit from Aldergrove daily, a 2-hour, 15-minute trip each way.
For my bus line, it gets pretty long actually, and then the bus always ends up filling up, like at Surrey Central, so nobody can get on at King George Station.
Thomas McCarthy commutes from Surrey by train and bike, but busy trains make that approach an uphill climb.
I find at nights at the peak hours it's really, really hard to get back and forth. We're usually waiting for 2 or 3 trains to pass.
TransLink released its 2023 performance review this week. The report finds after a pandemic-related dip, ridership is back to 2019 levels, and so is overcrowding. And that's thanks to a 20% passenger surge from the year before. South of the Fraser and the Tri-Cities are seeing faster than average rider growth, although Vancouver and Burnaby are home to the busiest SkyTrain stations and the busiest bus stops. TransLink says their 2024 investment plan will help with the busiest routes, but
we really need to tackle a long-term trend for next year where we can have a sustainable funding model that will allow us to grow over time instead of being kind of stagnant like we've been for the last 4 years.
TransLink says after 2025, they face a shortfall worth $600 million. So like 300 million bus tickets. Liam Britton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Organizers of a pro-Palestinian demonstration at UBC say they've gained more supporters over the past week. As John Hernandez tells us, protesters say they're focused on creating a safe space and hope their camp will remain peaceful.
I'm at the pro-Palestinian encampment at UBC, where organizers say the crowd has grown over the past few days. There were just 30 tents here on Monday, now about 100 tents and 80 people camping here overnight. Their demands are posted along the walls of the encampment: an end to the war in Gaza, and for UBC to divest in companies that are complicit in the conflict.
So far, we haven't seen any correspondence with the university, with us directly. And again, we're not really here to negotiate. We're here until our demands are met.
The encampment, among many in Canada and the U.S., some of which have erupted into violence amid standoffs with counter-protesters and police. Students here say those types of confrontations have been minimal.
We've been holding strong, lots of support, and no form of escalation from any security or RCMP yet. But still, we send a lot of strength and support to the students who have been attacked.
Organizers say their goal is to create a safe space for people of all backgrounds. Members of the school's Jewish community have rallied in support of the cause.
For us as Jewish faculty, we just want to come here and do some myth busting. There's a lot of smears, there's a lot of characterizations of this movement that are frankly false.
I feel safe. I have been to rallies in support of Gaza and in support of Palestine, and I have felt safe at them. I don't feel particularly this makes me feel safer.
Meanwhile, an encampment is also growing at the University of Victoria, attended by hundreds of students and faculty.
Genocide is not a Jewish value. Not all Jews support the actions of the State of Israel, myself among them.
Students at both schools vow to stay for as long as it takes. The universities say they're monitoring the camps, but for now aren't taking steps to shut them down. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Stateside, the UCLA campus is relatively quiet now following an explosion of violence with pro-Palestinian demonstrations overnight. Lindsay Duncombe has more.
The protesters are gone, many arrested, and the cleanup is well underway here. Less than 24 hours ago, this place was full of tents and barricades. Police moved into the pro-Palestinian encampment in the wee hours. Hundreds of officers from several forces, some firing rubber bullets. Protesters resisted. Police say some threw projectiles. Irritants sprayed on both sides. This police action came a day after 100 counter-protesters clashed with protesters in the camp.
We didn't see no injuries on both ends. Our officers were able to remove the agitators. We're still working on a few agitators that are still on campus. However, we are making progress. Our officers are going to be here all day assisting the UCLA Police Department, try to get the protesters to discourage the protesters from coming back. We'll be here and we're very well prepared.
More than 200 protesters were arrested, led one by one onto buses. It will be up to prosecutors to determine if charges will be laid.
I think that police uphold the system of oppression, and obviously it's not right. They're just upholding the status quo. So we need to resist, and we need to keep protesting, and that's the only way change will be made, right? By resisting the status quo.
President Joe Biden spoke about the campus protests in Washington today.
Dissent is essential to democracy. But dissent must never lead to disorder or to denying the rights of others so students can finish the semester and their college education.
He rejected calls to bring in the National Guard and said his administration's stance on Israel hasn't changed. More than 50,000 students attend UCLA. Today and tomorrow, classes will be virtual. The tents may be gone, but the anger and divisions remain. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Los Angeles.
In March, CBC News broke a story revealing 1/3 of condo owners in a subsidized housing development in Victoria should not have been eligible. Dozens of them were sued by BC Housing for lying to get homes below market price. Earlier today, Tanya Fletcher spoke to Jason Proctor about how one of those homeowners is responding.
Basically, this revolves around this condo development in Victoria, the Vivid. It was made with a $53 million subsidized loan to the developer. Developer is supposed to pass those on to needy home buyers who have to meet certain criteria. One of the crucial things, they have to promise to live there for 2 years. And so the province found numerous people weren't living there, and some, in fact, owned multiple homes, so they took them to court. So there's about 24 lawsuits out there right now, all claiming that these people basically undermined this program aimed at tackling the affordable housing crisis in British Columbia. And what we see here is a response to one of those claims.
And what is the response detail?
Well, it's interesting because this guy says, his name's Jian Xin, he says, well, I've lived there for 2 years. He actually cites one of our stories where, the Minister of Housing said, we're out to get these lawbreakers, essentially. He says, I'm not a lawbreaker. You're, using this for political gain. And in fact, you're going to make me homeless by taking away my house. And he says, essentially, BC Housing lacks clean hands on this issue.
So he feels like a bit of a scapegoat, it sounds like. What are the allegations that have been made in court right now?
Well, basically, you know, what we've seen is there's people, some people who allegedly own, you know, millions of dollars worth of other houses. There's a realtor involved in this as well, who is herself being sued. She made $53,000 in commissions off of sales on this. As it happens, she's the realtor who was, you know, did the deal for the guy who's responded to this. And he says, I relied on her advice, and I don't speak English very well, so, you know, it's not my fault.
Well, no doubt this story will have much more teeth to it as it goes on. Thank you so much, as always, for your expertise on it.
What I did was I created the Spirit of the Canuck Rockery.
10 days of work, 600 to 700 rocks, one tremendous tribute to the Vancouver Canucks. We'll have more after the break. '23-year-old Giovanni Manu is the first athlete from UBC to ever be selected in an NFL draft. He spoke with the CBC's On the Coast about getting the call from the Detroit Lions and what that moment meant to him.
It's something I've been chasing since a child, and something I've been chasing since I joined this amazing sport of football. And the emotions and everything was great. Just a huge rush of the feeling of hard work has paid off. But most importantly to me, just to see my close friends and my family members, especially my parents and my sister, just to see how proud they were at that moment was a great moment for myself. When I got the phone call, what teams would usually do during the draft process is they'll take my number and they'll save it, and they'll tell me, we'll call you throughout the day and we'll just call to check up on you and see how you're doing. Don't expect it to be like a draft call. So when they called me, I looked at the TV, I see that they weren't up for a pick, so I assumed that this is one of those calls where they're just calling to ask how I'm doing. And then I pick it up, and then they're like, Coach Dan Campbell, the first word he says is that if I'm ready to be a Lion, and he's fired right up, and I'm just as excited. I'm like, okay, let's do it. But in my mind, I'm trying to keep myself composed, because I don't know how they're gonna pick me. They're not on TV yet. And then he explains to me, we just traded a future third-round pick to New York just to move up in the fourth round to get you, and then reality started to settle in, and the excitement started to rush in, and I was like, all right, let's do it. I'm super excited. So to any kid out there, that has huge dreams of making it to the NFL or the CFL, if that's your dream, you can truly make it. It doesn't have to be a dream. It's something that's truly you're able to grasp. All you have to do is just put your mind and your willpower to it, and you'll achieve it.
A man in Clearwater has put his love for the Vancouver Canucks in his yard. He gathered hundreds of rocks made from granite, shale, and black lava to create an orca. It's his way of cheering on the team during their playoff run.
Here I am in beautiful British Columbia in the town called Clearwater, BC. And we are very big Canuck fans out here, along with the rest of BC. So one day I woke up and I looked out the window and I looked on my bank, and it looked like there was a fish in the snow. The snow had all melted, but there was a fish left there. So I thought a little bit about it. I thought, hey, well, the Canucks are getting into the playoffs this year. And just after that, there was also that little orca that was stuck on the Vancouver Island. And I thought, everything is coming together. So what I did was I created the Spirit of the Canuck rockery. So all these rocks are handpicked and put in there. We need a Stanley Cup this year. So if the Canucks play half as hard as it took me to build this orca, I think we're going to have a good shot.
Here we have a shot of a train rambling right through White Rock Beach this evening. Darius will have your full forecast coming up next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
With the changes to how Canada is able to access journalism online and on social media, we want to assure you that when you're looking for CBC News, you'll always be able to find us. Local news, breaking stories, and the latest from around the world is at your fingertips any time of the day with the free CBC News app and online at cbcnews.ca. For news you can trust, download the CBC News app and stay connected wherever you are.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Darius Madavi joins us now with a look at our weather. Darius?
Well, we do have some clouds starting to move in, affecting the west coast of the island first before making its way to the lower mainland, probably tomorrow, sort of late morning. That cloud is already moving in these overnight times for the west coast island, spreading to the rest of the island, and then making its way here. The rain is already going to be arriving for the west coast of the island, sort of in the next, by sort of tomorrow morning, tomorrow morning to mid-afternoon, and then we're going to see that continue to roll over across the island and then make its way here to us in Vancouver as well. So that's probably going to be the overnight period from Friday into Saturday when we see that rain. If we zoom out to the rest of the province, you'll notice that we're going to have some of that, most of that activity confined to the south coast for the first little while, or southwestern BC really, and then we're going to see a bit more activity as some more stuff pops up in the southern interior, along the BC-Alberta border, and for the north and central coast as we see that next system roll in early next week, sort of overnight Sunday into Monday, which is where we see our first proper, consistent rainfall here in Vancouver. Before that, it's really just some showers, although Sunday morning is looking a little bit wet. If we take a look here at our temperatures, they're going to come up tomorrow for most of the south coast, with the exception of the west coast of the island, because there the system has already rolled in. The temperatures are going to stay cooler. They are also going to come up in the interior, and they're going to stay high for the interior, even as they drop here, especially for inland sections of places like Vancouver, like the lower mainland. Now, if we take a look at our conditions for tomorrow, lots of sunshine across the board. Really, the only place where we don't get any sun at all tomorrow is going to be the west coast of the island, because that cloud has already rolled in. And actually, no, that's not true. A lot of the island will get pretty cloudy tomorrow morning, maybe with a few gaps in sunshine. Here in Vancouver, the cloud doesn't arrive until sort of late morning, so we get a little bit of sunshine, but as you'll see here, we're going to get still quite a cloudy day tomorrow. The cloud is pretty persistent right through the weekend and into early next week, but by Tuesday we'll probably start to clear up a little bit. We'll be dry at least, and I do think we'll start to see the cloud clear up a little bit, but I'll let you know if I'm totally wrong tomorrow.
Thanks, Darius.
Thank you.
That is your late news for this Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. For news at any time, head to our website. Have a great night.